Bahujan spectatorship. So I'm not going to get into that directly, but yeah. So it began. The idea of gays began with these things that were told to us, told to me especially. Was this that oh, you don't look like a scheduled caste person. You speak English really well. You dress too well for it, right? Or an incident that happened when I was like 6 years old was I was invited to this Navratri puja and I was denied food. So yeah, that happened. Hi, my name is Jyoti Nisha. I'm a writer, filmmaker, producer, theorist, and a woman from a second generation family of farmers and cinema lovers. Since I was like 6 years old, my parents used to, they used to go watch a film every day. Like they were regular cinema goers, so much to an extent that the theater people knew them. So if there was no space, they were accommodated. Um, and so I grew up, so cinema was like a great part of my life, and we saw a lot of films. Like I'm watching films since 6 years old, so it really made a great impact on my life. And yeah, so and obviously, like all of you, the way you guys have consumed popular cinema, I also watched a lot of popular cinema, like Hum Dil Dekh Chuke Hain, Hum Dil Dekh Chuke Sanam, or Khamoshi, or Hum Aapke Hain Kaun, or the names. But what happened was this, that I did not find myself. In popular cinema, I did not find myself. And what I saw was this. They were always broken people. They were always victims. They did not have willpower or self-respect. So all the images of the people like me, whenever there was a representation of caste in popular discourse, then they were always victims, they were always victimized, we were seen from a very voyeuristic gaze, and they were always suffering. And I was, they were always suffering, and why did they suffer was because of the system of caste, which is a hierarchical organization of our society, which degrades one community, which packs one community over the other. There is no upward mobility. So, and I was very, very certain that I'm not the one to suffer. I am somebody who resists this kind of, this kind of gaze, this kind of way of looking. And this was also something I really saw. I mean, especially when you've grown up watching films, then you really see that they are talking about caste. Caste has been talked about, but it is always class. It's never caste. The popular cinema, so explicitly, they never talked about caste. And I was certain that I'm not going to suffer. I am somebody who, looks back, so who resists, who's going to ask questions. So yeah, and I understood that this was something like when you have been told, like I began from this, that, oh, you don't look like that, or you speak English like this, or you dress too well for it, oh, this, that. So I was like, okay, so there is a certain way of looking. There is a certain way that popular cinema or popular culture looks at people from the margins, which includes scheduled castes, scheduled tribes, other backward classes, and the converted minorities. And this case is extremely problematic, right? So what happened in 2019, I was called to moderate a session by Media Rumble, and the title was, basically we were mapping the social messaging and the politics of representation in cinema. And they were celebrated filmmakers, and I asked them, because I am from an academic background, so I asked them very, very pertinent questions. I asked them, what was your method to, really engage with the question of caste or representation of people from the margins? Or if it was not your experience, then what was your research methodology? How did you land there, actually, Like, there has to be a method to it, right? Or you cannot just imagination is not it, cultural nuance and cultural context. I mean, stories will not make sense if you do not have cultural context. So I asked them a lot of serious questions, and somehow I saw power shift in my favor because I was right this time. And they were embarrassed. So they were shamed. So that's what power and shame is. That's what caste system is exactly about. There are people who retain this power, who are from the privileged communities or upper caste gaze, or has an upper caste gaze, or certain, a certain kind of entitlement that comes with coming from a privileged community. So yeah, I asked them questions, and they were like, she's too critical. So this was the first time I also saw that probably they have not seen or met a woman like me who speaks in English, who's pretty articulate, who has studied filmmaking, who knows screenwriting, who also has, a master's in, cultural studies as well. So I understand all of this from the back of my head. So I was very, very certain. It was an experience, and it was a uncomfortable experience. So, so I was like, oh, these guys actually do not know our side of story. They actually do not know. They only have seen so far a very victimized representation of people from the margins, and also women. Women from any class or caste background, they are not really empowered. If you see, if you look at 100 years of cinema or literature, you're not really, really empowered. You're not equal to men. So I theorized Bahujan spectatorship. What is Bahujan? First, let's go to that. So this is a pen. As well as Bahujan comes from taken from Buddha's Bahujan Hitai and Bahujan Sukhai. And Hitai is the well-being of the people. And Sukhai is the interest of the village, the interest and the well-being of the majority of the people. And what is the majority? This is 85% population of this country, which includes scheduled castes, scheduled tribes, other backward classes, and the converted minorities. And the cap of the pen, is the privileged communities, which includes upper caste and upper caste communities, the top three communities, which you can see in the pyramid of caste structure. So yeah, so Bahujan spectatorship is an oppositional gaze and a political strategy of Bahujans to reject the Brahminical representation of caste and representation of marginalized communities in Indian cinema. Why am I rejecting it? Because it is victimizing people like us. It makes us look down. It looks down upon us, basically. And what's also interesting was that, my experience of going on this panel was also that they really also, popular culture primarily probably does not also know that when we watch cinema, where caste or sexuality or gender is represented, what is my experience of watching that cinema? And mostly it was not pleasant. It was like a distortion, because I come from an Ambedkarite Buddhist family, so it's the in the pyramid, in the structure of caste structure, especially when you're in a Hindu community, you're at the bottom of it. And because I'm not from a Hindu community, so I don't really, I'm not part of that structure. Because philosophically, spiritually, I don't, connect with that kind of ideology. My ideological frame of mind is more Buddhist, is more Ambedkarite, is more rational. So yeah. So also, whatever cinema, also I really think that whether it's cinema, story, literature, art, you also have to consume it in the context of time, in the times that it's been made. So it's been made, so whatever is the ideology of the state is the kind of cinema or the literature or art is getting made, right? So it is also, again, a very ideological structure. The cinema is a site of ideological reproduction. Also, when you come from an Ambedkarite family, then you grow up with a completely different imagination of the nation, right? There is a popular imagination which victimizes you and has a very voyeuristic, distant gaze. And there's this other imagination, which is from the community, which is embedded in our culture. So, which Dr. Ambedkar said that Indians today are governed by two different ideologies. The political ideal is set in the political ideology is set in the preamble of the Constitution, which affirms the life of liberty, equality, fraternity, social justice, but the social ideal, which is embedded in a Hindu culture, denies it. So whenever I consumed cinema also, it was completely two different imagination of the nation. My imagination of the nation is absolutely different and oppositional to the imagination of the popular culture. And this is what you saw in popular culture, Swaraj, a Gandhian imagination of India. And when I say cinema is an ideological state apparatus, what I'm saying is it's an ideological state apparatus. And what is a state? A state funds the discourse, right? So what is funded by the state actually becomes the popular discourse, right? And so this was, and because we never had access to mass media or television or news, we didn't have that kind of access as a community. So you always saw a very popular imagination of the nation or Indian nationalism, which was from a very Gandhian gaze. So this is Dandi March and this Simon Go Back, and then other imagination, which is this. Dr. Ambedkar, he started, it was a very impromptu satyagraha, Mahar Satyagraha, where people were not actually allowed, and this is happening in 1927. So, and the Dandi March is happening in the 1930s. So, there is a parallel movement, social movement has actually existed. So, but what you have seen always in popular culture is a very Gandhian imagination nation where you know that, Mahatma Gandhi was the savior, or he was the poster boy of Swaraj, basically, right? But Dr. Ambedkar was leading, he led Mahar Satyagraha because people from the marginalized community, they did not have access to public water. They were treated worse than animals. And so in his, Dr. Ambedkar actually understood that, we don't have access to media and other institutions where our knowledge production could happen. So he published several newspapers like Prabuddha Bharat, Muknayak, Janta, Samta. There were other newspapers as well. So now you see there are two different imaginations of the nation when you think of a film theory, right? So what is the framework of Bahujan spectatorship? So Bahujan spectatorship looks at the relation between production of knowledge and practices of power, ideology and ideological state apparatus, and it looks at what is the gaze when what is the gaze of Indian cinema's representation of people from the margins. It also looks at how political context, which is in what kind of times, what kind of cinema is happening, or literature or art is happening, which is, I'm sure you can make sense what's happening right now as well. Yeah. So it also, so the framework of Bahujan spectatorship takes also from Bell Hooks' idea of traumatic relationship with the gaze. So what's the story behind this traumatic relationship with the gaze is this, that when black people used to work in the fields, if they looked back at their white masters, then they were punished for looking. So that was the, how did the mothers actually taught their children that don't look back. If you looked back, if you stared, you'll be punished. So there is a traumatic, so imagine, for the time that, racism exists today as well, but there was a traumatic relationship with the gaze that just by looking back, but it's such a reflexive action. You look back, you want to look back. So people who look back, they were punished. So, which I also connected with caste, right? Like, you talk back, you oppose, you resist, you are punished for it. You're punished by it, by the system, by the people who are in power, that. And the second one, theory is Sandra Harding's standpoint theory, which, emergence of oppositional consciousness and Sandra Harding's standpoint theory. And what is standpoint theory? Standpoint theory talks about that all knowledge is socially situated. That means whoever is producing whatever kind of knowledge, art, literature, it actually comes from the culture that you're part of, right? And she also, when she is talking about this oppositional consciousness, what it means is that she's saying that you got to embrace your experience, whatever your experience is. And if you are especially from the margins, which may be queer people, black people, people from the marginalized community, Dalit, OBC, communal, Muslim community, when you, accept and embrace your own consciousness, then you have an agency, right? So then you create knowledge from your social location, and so that's what I did. I created knowledge from my social location, and I was opposing the popular gaze. And it looks at cinema as an institution and a site of ideological state production. That means cinema, the kind of cinema, literature, art, again, that you see, it is always motivated and also funded by the ideology of the state, right? So me as a person from the marginalized community has to see what was the opposition consciousness that was emerging in our country since 2014, since BJP came into power, was this. There were people resisting. There was Rohit Vemula, who was institutionally murdered by Hyderabad Central University. He was resisting the system because his university socially ostracized him and other 4 students. There's Chandrasekhar Azad. This is a Dalit Asmatya Yatra. That's also a Dalit Asmatya Yatra. So there was clearly, in 2014, an oppositional consciousness that was emerging in our country, and which was for the people from the margins. So now, and what are the themes that you have in popular cinema are like, include, so there have been several film criticism has several themes. They've talked about caste, communal representation, women's identity, sexuality. They have kind of like touched upon caste, but they have never questioned why caste exists. What is the genesis mechanism and where does it develop? Like that question popular culture does not talk about. So imagine during the 90s, I mean, this is colonial time where Mahatma Gandhi, he was leading the Indian national movement. Dr. Ambedkar, he was leading the social movement. And that's Dada Saheb Phalke at the corner. So they were creating a certain cultural identity of India. Cinema really contributed in creating a cultural identity of India. And both the movements were happening. You have to stay in context with the times. The times when what Gandhi was doing what, and Dr. Ambedkar was doing what, and Dada Saheb Phalke was like, the cinema was to propagate the Swadeshi movement, to support the Swadeshi movement. And under the Swadeshi movement, so this is Ira Bhaskar, she's talked about in 1930s, 50s, cinema's role in developing the cultural identity of India as a nation. And he said Phalke's attempt was to establish an Indian film industry as significant contribution to the Swadeshi movement. So again, themes of identity, it has to do with identity constantly, the identity, nation, nationhood, nationalism. So how do I perceive what is nationalism for me? And the realism, these were the like themes which were constantly invoked in the pre and post-independent cinema, and they were like these films. So capitalism, modernity, class struggle, again capitalism, class struggle. So these are the like some films who did invoked these themes in certain permutation combination. These were some Sadhgati and Sujata, they had caste as an element, where again the characters were from a very victim gaze. So given this background, one has to really think that popular culture, like whose gaze is that when popular culture talks about caste, sexuality, gender, representation, intersectionality? It's certainly not my gaze, right? It is popular culture's gaze. And how and why the popular imagination of the nation is absolutely contrary and oppositional to my experience, right? It's not my experience, what I've grown up seeing. And how does this grammar of popular cinema and content and context really affect our times? Okay, I'm just getting to the end of it. So in 1933, I mean, Girish Karnad said if you want to really, because they were also exploring this idea of nationalism, nation, realism, and they were like, the trope was always identity, like what is the identity of one person when they are, talking about, when they are exploring this idea of nationalism, patriotism as well. So he's saying that if you want to know real India, you need to go to the village, and it's a village where you have this real India. So coming back to this again, because I come from a family of farmers, I was like, okay, but the popular imagination again romanticizes what happens in villages basically, because again when you see that, then you have the caste and identity has been again represented and presented from the ideology of the state, which was mostly, if you see who funded these institutions and these films and where was it exhibited, was popular culture. So that was mostly it was a very Gandhian imagination of the nation. But Dr. Ambedkar said that when you are in that, he asked people from the margins to actually migrate to cities because casteism was so rampant and it was so dark and insidious. So it was completely, again, different, completely opposite imagination of the nation. So is there really a Bahujan gaze? Yes, there is, with which we engage with Indian cinema. And is there a female Bahujan gaze through which Bahujan women engage with cinema? Again, it's a very different, like me talking about it's completely different experience from a popular gaze.